Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Suited Kings podcast. Today we have a very special guest, but before I introduce him, we actually have a special announcement that I'm going to let Wes take over.
Yeah. So this coming Thursday, which would be the 30th, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, there's going to be an online Suited Kings meetup game.
Like, they can come gamble with us?
Yeah, we can play some poker, slap each other around a little bit.
I love taking those West bucks.
Yeah. So it's going to be on actually a new site called Clubs Poker, which some of you have heard about if you're in the Discord. Some of you may not have. It's going to be, a ring game. We're going to have multiple tables going, hopefully. To sign up for Clubs Poker, if you haven't yet, use the link in the description.
Twitter, Discord, and everywhere in the description
We'll
of this.
make sure you got the link.
Make sure to use that link when signing up. But also, just if you're not familiar yet, it has a redemption system very similar to Global. So if you're familiar with them, you'll be very familiar with clubs.
Yeah. So once you're signed up, just
Poker,
purchase gold coins and you'll get sweeps cash, which can be redeemed for real money prizes. Right now, they're offering a 20 sweeps coins bonus to anyone who signs up.
All right. And not that I'm a physical guy and I don't like hurting people, but if we get 16 people, so they're 8-handed tables, if we fill 2 tables, I will film a video of me slapping Wes just for the fans out there who've asked for it.
Yeah, and I've agreed to this too. I've already posted about it in the Discord.
All right, he can't sue me, guys. We're good.
All right. Yeah, guys, sign up for Clubs Poker using our link. Actually, as we're recording this tonight, I know a lot of you out there are tournament players, and they are doing their first 55 sweeps coins nightly tournament tonight too. So definitely get in there and check out the tournaments, the ring games, and feel free to give us feedback too. I mean, we've had meetings with the people who are in charge of this site. They're great people, and we're excited to grow with them. So.
It is Charmin Soft, and I look forward to it. So let's get on with the show. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. So, guys, a very, very special guest, someone I've been friends with for quite some time, known for quite some time now. Many of you are familiar with him. He hails from Minnesota, now resides in Vegas. Our good friend, Mr. Ryan Laplante. Mr. Ryan here has $3.2 million in earnings. He's got a bracelet to his name. He's got a 10K Poker Master win to his name. He's a coach. He's the founder of Learn Pro Poker, which is a great learning site. I suggest you guys all check that out. He also has, I think, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong here, 148 WSOP caches.
That sounds about right. I think I'm 13th on the all-time caches list for World Series of Poker bracelet events.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Is that? Yeah, I'll make a joke about that later. But you're also second on the Minnesota all-time list.
Yes, I am.
Behind Mr. Bone.
Yeah, I keep getting close, and then he'll just like sprint past me, and then I'll get close, and then he'll sprint past me.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are both grinders. It makes sense that I love it though. It's a grind. Keep chasing that first spot there. You can find Mr. Ryan online, Twitter at PotentialMN. So make sure to check him out on there. We'll get some more of that information on where people can find you and more about that throughout the episode. But Ryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I really do appreciate it. As you guys know, I grew up in Minnesota. Actually, I grew up in Brainerd. Before that, I lived in a small town called Royalton, Minnesota. I essentially lived in Minnesota from age 5 to 19.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I did notice that on your profile, it said you were born in Madison.
Yep. Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. One other thing before we get into it that I noticed on your WSOP player profile, that you have an interesting fact on there. It says you spent 6 years in Civil Air Patrol.
Yeah, so it's the auxiliary of the Air Force. They do like 90% of the U.S.'s search and rescue missions. It's for teens and adults. Most of the adults that are in it are like ex-Air Force or ex-Marines. And as a teen, when you're joining it, a lot of people have like the idea of like joining the Air Force after. And if you become a cadet officer, it tends to be much easier to get into like Air Force Academy. You start off as a higher grade when you end up joining the Air Force. So through Civil Air Patrol, and we can talk about this stuff later too, but through Civil Air Patrol, I soloed in a glider airplane at age 15 and soloed in a powered airplane at age 16.
That's awesome.
I've done search and rescue missions, been head cadet at Flight Academy, done all that type of stuff. So
that's really cool, man. It's something I don't know anybody who's been a part of that. So it seems like a really special experience, especially at such a young age.
Yeah, my parents gave us the option of Boy Scouts or Civil Air Patrol, so it was a pretty easy pick.
Okay. Well, let's start here. You're actually, as we're recording this, you just got finished with a one-on-one, or maybe a one-on-one, or whether it was you just did a coaching session with Mr. Lucky Chewy himself, Andrew Lichtenberger.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Yeah, it went amazing. So, Lucky Chewy is one of the founders of Octopi Poker,
Okay.
GTO study app. I strongly believe that they by far have the best tournament database in the industry.
Mhm.
They built their own solver from scratch. Um, I mean, it's a bunch of the best minds in the industry are behind it,
Okay.
and they're operating it in an extremely ethical way that takes regard for the long-term health of the industry,
Well, that's
unlike
important in poker, as we
GTO
know.
Wizard and some of the other products out there.
Okay.
On top of that, so he's been doing these I think they're weekly group coaching sessions that just started. I was a second one, and a user will send in hand histories. I had recorded my last Sunday session that I played 2 days ago, and we took that recording and discussed hands and stuff. It was in a group style setting, but it was a lot of me and him discussing spots back and forth. As you guys might know, having built my own GTO study app from the ground up, I'm very much a solver guy.
Yep.
But since I play a lot of live low to mid stakes and online low stakes on sites that are similar to Club Poker, Global, WSOP, so on and so forth, I play and utilize a lot of extreme exploits in my game.
Mhm.
So our conversation was a mixture of, some of how I approach some of the theory situations and how I was analyzing them, and also whether the exploits that I use are logically sound, whether they make sense, whether he agrees with them. So I also got to ask him a lot of questions about just how he generally thinks about and approaches the game. He and I have actually had a decent number of conversations in the past about poker, but it's usually playing at the table or like,
Right.
5-minute discussion on break. So I've never really been able to pick his brain about stuff. And this was literally just like a free, almost 2 hour long coaching session with him. And it was incredible. Yeah, it was
That's
great.
really
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, and I know, like you said, when you at the poker table talking poker, you're very limited. Nor do
Hmm.
you want to get too deep into a lot of things at the poker table. So
Right.
that's awesome that you got to experience that with Lucky Chewy himself. You both are clearly great poker minds, so I'm sure that was a really cool session. Uh, so kind of leading off the conversation here after that, you've been playing professional poker for how long now?
15 years.
15 years. Okay, so
Yeah.
2011 ish, right around there.
Uh,
9.
2009.
Oh, math. Well, that's Wes is the is the calculator guy. Sorry about that.
I like the look that Wes gave you the moment
Wasn't
you
it
said that.
2026?
Oh, man.
Okay, and then so tell us about like how you got into poker, how you found it, and how that's evolved from like when you first found it to becoming a professional.
Okay, so, growing up, late I guess early 2000s, in Minnesota, when you're, as I'm sure you guys are about the same age as me, right? You're both in about late 20s, early 30s.
Wes is still in
I'm
diapers. I'm 37.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
29,
so
he's 37.
Okay,
He's
so
yeah.
then you would know this much a little bit better. So when you would have like sleepovers and do that type of stuff,
Yep.
I assume you guys would do like football, basketball, baseball, and play video games.
Lots of
And
yeah,
some
Yeah,
lots of
games we'd
video games
play
for sure.
would
some
be like,
chess.
Halo, games like that. So
Yep.
when I was growing up, Halo 1, Halo 2, and Halo 3, those were like, my junior high and early high school days. And when we would have sleepovers, we would play football and other sports, and we'd play games like Halo, but also when Chris Moneymaker won the main event, we'd also play poker.
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
Moneymaker effect actually what kind of got me and my friends into the game. So we'd played on sleepovers. I remember playing with friends on the bus. If we were in homeroom, we'd be playing 5 cent, 10 cent heads up and doing things like that.
Mm.
So I started to really enjoy the game because of that. And each year, when the New World Series or High Stakes Poker or Celebrity Poker Showdown would come out, I would always watch each season and watch WPT episodes and do all that type of stuff.
Okay.
Um, my senior year of high school, I was actually playing Halo 3 competitively.
Okay.
Essentially like tier below professional. I was on a team. We were trying to break it into the pros. They'd wanted to travel and do all that type of stuff, do Major League Gaming stuff, and try making it as a professional team. I wasn't able to travel, so I took my competitive outlets from Halo to poker.
Okay.
And
And online
when
poker's still legal at this point, right?
yeah, this was 2000. So I made my PokerStars account, like my legit one, the day I turned 18.
Okay.
PokerStars, Full Tilt, Party Poker. This is when you could play on all of those when you're 18 plus in the
Yep.
US.
Yep. Yep.
But before that, like I would build up accounts using free rolls, you know. I would do
Yeah.
all the usual type of stuff that, you know, a
The
bunch of kids
grind,
my
man.
age did. Yeah. Like I remember like I nearly won a WSOP main event seat when I was underage from free rolls. Like I would have had to give it to my dad and have him play.
That's
That's funny
awesome.
though.
Yeah. I have
Yeah.
similar stories with my dad. That's funny.
So yeah, I got into poker because of friends and stuff. And actually, when I was playing poker with friends in like junior high and high school, I was awful. I wasn't the best player. I was nowhere near the best player. I was just bad at it. However, as right before I turned 18, I stumbled upon this poker forum called 2 plus 2 forums.
Yep.
And this is how I started to discuss poker with other people and really start to learn the game, to network in the industry. And then once I turned 18, I started putting in real dollar volume. Also started being backed and selling action almost immediately. There's a site called Part Time Poker.
Okay.
And so there's another site called Poker by Trade, but Part Time Poker was like the larger poker staking site, and it would like track how much action you sold and how much action you bought, and you get points for it, yada yada. And I met my first longtime backer on there.
Okay.
And I've essentially, so this is, I assume this is pretty rare. So, you know, I've been playing poker professionally for 15 years. I've been backed for 14 years and 9 months of it, probably.
That is
Wow.
very uncommon, clearly. I mean, I know a lot of poker players who've been searching for that for a long time. I am very familiar with 2 plus 2. I know back in, the days you're talking about. So you and me are kind of on the same timeline. I grew up also, landing Halo 1, 2, and
Yeah.
3 back in the basement with like 5 TVs and all the
Yeah.
systems.
Yeah.
Chris
Exactly.
Moneymaker. Then we'd play poker, little sit and goes at home. Train of thought here. Anyways, yeah. So I grew up during that era. I remember the 2 plus 2 forums were like the place to go and talk poker. I
Yeah.
mean,
Definitely.
anyone who was anyone at that time and discuss poker on 2 plus 2. Unfortunately, it's not as what it once was, but I remember those days. They were the golden
Yeah,
age.
exactly. And like the way that you really learned back then, and honestly, still the way I learn now is you discuss with other people. You
Yeah.
Mhm.
share ideas, you learn from them based off of what they've learned, and you help solidify your own thought process about how you think about and approach the game. And then, of course, with being backed as well, most of my backers usually included coaching. Either they would coach me directly, they would hire other coaches, so on and so forth. So through using things like 2 plus 2 to network and meet other players and just discuss hands and sweats and do all this other stuff, plus being backed and getting coaching, it's kind of how I steadily grew my game over the years. The current backers I'm backed by, they're called Team 651. They're one of the largest spin and go stables, and they back a handful of tournament players. I've been backed by them for 10 and a half years now.
Are they from Minnesota? Is that the area code?
No,
Oh, okay. I thought that
um,
was like the area code 651.
no, the 651 is because of an apartment one of them used to have. It was Unit 651.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a follow-up question regarding backing. So to our listeners who are, whether they're experienced or new, obviously finding and chatting with someone to get a backing deal is a little bit different than it used to be. Do you have any suggestions that someone could do to maybe get the ball rolling to help them find a backer in the future? Obviously that's a kind of a tough loaded question, but any
So
tips for anyone
no,
like
I
that?
think there's like I think there's like a step-by-step process you can do for it.
Okay.
Okay, so to me, the step one is establish yourself as being a good, consistent player. A
Okay.
couple different ways to do that, but by far the easiest way to do is by grinding online. You need to have enough results over a consistent time period to show that you are a good winning player. And with live poker, you just can't play enough volume. And it's, you can track your own stats through buy-ins and yada yada, but people might not trust or believe you. But
Mhm.
You got
if you
shark scope
grind
and things
on,
like that.
yeah, exactly. If you use Shark Scope and you have a graph of 5,000 games and it just goes straight up at a 40% ROI, you're very clearly a good winning player for those stakes, and that's going to convert to a backing deal or for cash games. if you're playing online and tracking your cash game results, that's how you're going to be able to prove to someone else that you're a good, consistent winning player. And you can use that to go, oh, hey, I'm a good, consistent winning player, but I want backing because I want better financial security. I want to take better shots. I want to get coaching, so on and so forth. So, step one is establish consistent results. Step two is build a platform in some capacity. These days are actually a decent number of ways to build platforms. You can just, interact with other people online. You can use Discord. You can use poker streams. You can use Twitter. You can use all these. There are tons and tons of different communities that exist in poker these days. Yes, back on 2+2, everyone was in one spot. Now people are in a lot of different locations, but it's pretty easy to get yourself into these communities and interact and grow with other people. Like for instance, most training sites and coaching sites like Learn Pro Poker, we have multiple types of communities. One of the main community that we're building right now is on this free platform called School.
Okay.
We have like a Facebook feed, we have some free courses, classes, so on and so forth. The coaching session that I just did with Lucky Chewy, they have a Discord. If you are a paid member on for Octopi, you can join their Discord. Their Discord has, hundreds and hundreds of members, and you can talk with other serious players and even interact with Lucky Chewy.
That's
So
awesome.
you can use these different communities to meet other people and use that as for people to see that you are a serious, studied, approachable person. And then on top of that, you can then use sites like PokerStake and Stake Kings
Yep.
to start selling action in small pieces, build trust with people. And then through that, that's where you can go, okay, I've good, consistent winning online results. I've been putting in some live results. I have some live scores, so on and so forth, whatever. People know me through these different types of communities. They can, vouch for my, game and thought process and who I am as a person. And then on top of that, I now have bought or I've sold lots of action on these different staking platforms, showing that I am a trustworthy, honest, honorable person.
That makes
Then you
sense.
can go, hey guys, I'm looking for full-time backing for these reasons. So I think the process for it hasn't really changed. It stayed about the same. I
Okay.
think I think what's changed though is people's perception of how skilled you need to be has changed drastically, and their ability to analyze how well you play has gotten a lot better as well. So in the past, you could just be like a kind of well-liked person with some okay results and have some people say that they like you and that yada yada. And even if you've been on a downswing, whatever, you can just toss it up to variance and get a good backing deal through that and get coaching and so on and so forth. These days, though, it's pretty easy to detect if someone just doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's
100%
just a
agree with that.
wide difference between even like there's a really wide difference between someone who is an okay low stakes winning player versus a good mid stakes winning player. Like the gap is monstrous, not even in terms of how they play, but in terms of how they articulate their game and how they talk about poker. And if you're a good backer, you can immediately tell the difference between them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But 15 years ago, telling the difference between those two players is very difficult.
Well, right.
So,
I guess,
in
yeah. I
that
mean,
sense,
with the input
to
of, or, the with solvers and all that stuff now, and just in general, the way people talk. I mean, yeah, ask someone to talk about a hand history, and you'll quickly know their skill set,
right.
their skill
Mhm.
So
level.
I think even though there's a lot more money in the industry in a lot of different ways, I think it's gotten tougher to get backing because people understand that aspect better. And also people understand the variance of tournaments better and the variance of backing better.
Okay.
So let's say I wanted to back someone for 500 average buy-in live, and that person was playing a $100 average buy-in online.
Yep.
Specifically for that, let's say I was playing that type of schedule just myself. I'd probably want $75,000 liquid, like
Mhm.
minimum. That would just be like my poker bankroll would be 75K. By that, I'd be perfectly comfortable playing those stakes. If I was to back someone, I would want 150K minimum.
Okay.
So most people understand these concepts really well now. So since you need that much extra money, and then on top of that, long-term backing deals also have these negative incentives that are created when a player gets deep in makeup. And the negative incentives are created not only for the player, but also for the backer. So for instance, I ended my summer very deep in makeup, deepest I've ever been. And as I get deeper in makeup, better in my it's better for me to take these really thin situations in terms of tournaments I want to play. So let's say I could play a $600 buy-in where I can profit $600 by playing it, or I can play a $5,000 buy-in where I can profit $600 by playing it. And in the 5K, first place clears makeup, while in the 600, first place clears 30% of makeup. The tournament I'm going to play is a 5K.
Yep.
Because the EV of both tournaments is the exact same. And when I'm buried in makeup, I want the opportunities to clear.
That's the
So
added
it's
incentive.
right, exactly. And the backer actually has almost that exact same incentive. As
Right, because
long as
they
their
need their money
bankroll,
back as well.
yeah, as long as the and the deeper in makeup the horse is, the more of the score they get. So the higher EV they actually capture in that event.
Okay.
So it's actually better for the backer, for the player to play that tournament as well when the EVs are the exact same. And this type of negative feedback loop is super common with players that get somewhat deep in makeup, which is common in tournament backing deals.
Definitely.
And more backers are aware of this. This is why, in the past, you used to see all these huge tournament backing stables. I know of a ton of them. I know very few that have profited long-term backing tournament players. Very few.
Okay.
Like there are a handful, but it's a it's tough. It's
It is.
real
It
tough.
definitely is tough, and I appreciate you giving the lowdown on all that. I know a lot of listeners will find that interesting and helpful, and maybe that will help them set goals to further their career in poker. Just hearing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's as as a player, you also have incentive to have a backer who either is a poker player or who understands it very well. Because
Yeah.
you don't just want someone who like has money but doesn't play poker, and then suddenly you're down 10 buy-ins or whatever. And they're like, wait, what? I thought you were.
Right.
I thought this was
Yeah.
gonna go well.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important for the backer to understand the actual swings in it and how what that you can go 0 and 20 no problem. You know what I mean? Like, and
And
then
the other thing too is like most tournament players underestimate tournament variance.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's say you're that $500 buy-in average player that I just talked about before, and you play 300 entries over the course of a year.
Yeah,
And the
which is a
average,
lot for
which is a
live.
lot. I average about 150, and I live in Las Vegas, and obviously I do other
You're a
things.
grinder, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
grinder, but I grind in a lot of different ways. I grind live, I do coaching, I
Yep.
do all these other things. But I still average about 150 to 200 entries a year. So you'd need to be playing full time and living in an area where you can play most days, or traveling a lot like Ari Angle or someone. I think Ari probably plays about 4 to 450 entries a year, and he
Mhm.
plays like the most of anyone I know.
He's crazy,
Most
yeah.
full-time live pros play between 2 to 300 entries a year. So let's say you play 300 entries in a 500 average field size. So this is just playing like the local Vegas stuff for the most part.
Yep.
Like, a win 250K, it's going to get about 600 entries. So,
Mhm.
for a $600 buy-in. So just playing those types of events, you play 300 of them in a year with a 50% return on investment. What percentage of the time do you lose over the course of a year?
Um, yeah, I don't know. That's a good
Any
question.
guesses? How about
So,
this? Do you lose more than 10% of the time over the course of a year? 50% ROI,
yes,
300 entry.
definitely.
More than 20%.
I mean,
I
that's
would
kind
think
of the
so. I mean,
I would guess that's kind of where I was gonna say, but
yeah, I would think it's more than that because, like, even though you said a 50% ROI, right?
50.
I mean, a
Which
lot
is
of the
very high
times
win rate.
that could look like you could still have most years be losing, and then the ROI comes from, you get a few big scores. Like a lot of the times when
Right.
you have a winning year, it's going to be a lot more than 50%
So do you think it's
ROI.
more than 30%?
I was going to say you're going to lose, like have a losing year half the time, give or take.
It's a little bit less than that. It's about 40%.
40%? Okay. All right.
Which the way that I know this is if you just Google tournament variance calculator, the top
Mhm.
search is primedope.com. They have a cash game calculator and they have a tournament calculator. And let's say you want to like for yourself see like what type of variance you're going to run into. And let's say right now you're already a player who can beat mid stakes at a high win rate. You know this for sure already. You've played a ton of volume online, live, whatever. You know this for sure. 50% ROI in these games is a high ROI. This summer, Chris Brewer offered a bet in the WSOP main event where you could pick about 100 players and they needed to cash for 1.5x of the number of players. So let's say you picked 100 players, they needed to cash for 1.5 million. They cash for 1.5 million or more, you would win the bet. They cash for less than 1.5 million, you would lose the bet, and it was straight 50-50.
Yeah.
Based off the terms of those bets, they need to average a 200% ROI in order for you to win the bet half the time. And the main event is the best structured, biggest field, and it's a freeze out, and it has a large percentage of recreational players.
Yeah.
Those four factors means it's a type of tournament that have the highest capped ROI possible, right? There's no other tournament that someone's going to run a higher ROI. And realistically speaking, you need to run like a smaller buy-in that doesn't have the high pros in it, but has all these other factors going for it.
Yeah,
And
structure and whatnot.
he's betting against the top 100 players in the world don't have a 200% ROI in this thing. And as a good mid-stakes player, you're hoping in a small field, multiple reentry tournament with an okay to whatever structure that you're crushing a 50% ROI. Doesn't really add up. So, I mean, I've ran pretty well lifetime live, and I'm very good at playing live poker. I mean, I can tell you guys I actually know my live stats exactly. For buy-ins under 6,500, I've played about 1,100 entries. I've cashed about 25% of the time. I've final tabled about 20% of my cashes, and I've ran about 100% ROI lifetime, plus 1.3 million and 2.6 million in cashes. So 100% ROI. It might be sustainable. I don't know if it is. It might not be sustainable. In order for you to like grind live poker professionally, even at 100% ROI, you're still going to have a losing year with 300 entries, like 15% of the time or 10% of the time. And if you play the amount of entries I play, 150, you're going to have a losing year like 25% of the time.
Right.
Even at 100% ROI. So I think most people just have the wrong idea about what it means to play tournament poker for a living, or even in terms of a high volume player. They imagine that like, oh, I can crush this field, i.e. I can, let's say I'm good enough to crush all the recreational players, right? Like all professionals are, right? They'll go, oh, I'm better than all of these fish. There are all these fish in these fields, so I must be profitable, which is true. You probably are profitable if you're better than all the other recreational players. But if you're not better than most of the professionals, your return on investment in a tournament is going to be under 25%. And then where are you making money? You just don't really, unless you grind online. So I think a lot of people have these ideas about what they think playing tournament poker professionally is, and what the variance looks like, and what their edges look like, and where they make money and why they make money. And I don't think that's just true among people watching this. I think that's true among the vast majority of pros as well.
Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
I do think pros are getting better at it in terms of understanding it, but I still think it's true among a good majority of tournament pros.
Well, and I would say, speaking from my own experience, even though this is stuff that I had an idea of, logically in my brain, it's still emotionally, I kind of have to learn it too.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Like, honestly, for my...
Are you talking about like overcoming your ego?
Not even ego, just like there's sort of a, like, for example, I think it's, to start my professional career, my ROI in live tournaments was insanely
You had a hot
high.
start.
Yeah.
with a low
bias.
volume. Yeah.
Yeah, like
literally every tournament pro has had survivorship bias. There's no exception.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that.
And then so, and it still is very high. It's not,
but as your sample size has increased significantly since then, you've seen how that can change.
Yes. And it's like I knew logically that there were going to be periods of time where I just didn't run well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
where I just lose, min cash, lose. And so, but yeah, I would say, like, even though I knew there was all that variance in my head, there's still that, until you actually feel it, until you go on that big downswing, you kind of feel like you're gonna your next big final table is always right around the corner.
And that
Right.
supplements Ryan's point of, even a lot of professionals don't even realize it. And now, I mean, they
Mhm.
as they continue their career, they do more and more,
Like,
obviously.
I know a decent number of pros who still think, just because they lost money over the last 6 months that they're running poorly.
Yeah.
Losing money for 6 months is just that's playing tournament poker for a living. I'm serious.
Yeah,
That's just what it
Wes.
is.
Yeah.
It, it's
I put
it's
cash
only
too.
not
Yeah.
that when you play high volume online.
Mhm.
So for instance, over the I've been living in Vegas for the last about 8 years. Over the last 4 years, I've traveled for online poker like once, literally once. So I've mostly just been playing USA facing sites. On WSOP and Global Poker over the last 4 years, I've played about 3,600 games for low to mid stake stuff. So just buy-ins under 500, and I'm running about a 50 or 60% ROI in those games. But these sites are incredibly soft, and I have an exceptionally high win rate in them. For those, I can still have like a 500 game, losing stretch,
Mhm.
pretty easily. And let's if you look at my results for stakes that are higher than that, if you look at for buy-ins like 200 all the way on up to 10K, which I've, for that stretch, I think my ROI in them is like even-ish lifetime. And I've taken third place in a 3,200. I've taken third place in a 7K. I've final table multiple like big 1Ks, and I've
Mhm.
like broken even in them in not that many, buy-ins played. And I'm one all in away from having 150% ROI in that buy-in range. And the thing is that, let's say I can think of one exact hand where if I hold, I literally have like 100% ROI in those and maybe even higher.
You want to share
I
it?
got it. Yeah. So there's two real big ones. Pocket queens versus pocket threes, all in pre-flop in a 3,200 versus Cal for chip lead, where he drills a three. This was, I think, four-handed. And then the other one was three-handed. I am second in chips. Chip leader barely has me covered. Third in chips, only has a little bit less than me. I get kings all in pre-flop versus D Peters. It comes king high and I still lose in a 7K bind on WSOP, which is
Oh,
very top heavy.
I saw
Yeah.
that. The 777 or what, the
Seven, 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 seven.
$7,777 high
Yeah,
roller.
king. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the difference between first and third is larger than my largest lifetime score. And
Yeah,
second
it's a
place
lot of
would have been
money.
my largest lifetime score.
Yeah,
And the
that's
thing
insane.
is most people, I win that tournament, I get second bracelet. I'm seen as this like, super legendary sicko fucking whatever. But there's no difference in terms of how I actually play.
Played. Right. Yeah. It's literally
100%.
I can
variance in a
have
high equity spot that changes that perception.
and I've had a decent number of them. And this isn't me complaining about variance. This is just the reality of what tournament variance is. I could literally have 1.5 million more profits over the last 2 years pretty easily. And I'm the exact same player that I am right now. There's
Right.
Mhm.
literally no
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's just a couple of all-ins. And that's
Yeah.
this is what the industry is. It's how it goes. And the reverse side of this is also how it goes. Look at someone like Bin Wang. Bin Wang, he's a good poker player. I mean, he's gotten coaching from Chance and Foxen, and he's done all these things, and he's had a lot of really good success. But in 2023, he probably ran, even with all that, $3 million above expectation, $2.5 million above expectation. And there's no way that he knows exactly how well he ran or didn't run. And this is true for the vast majority of players. If you play live and you play 200 entries, and over the last year, and you had a winning year, you ran well.
Yep.
If you broke even, you ran okay. If you lost a little bit, you ran fine. Yet the vast majority of pros or the vast majority of players will go, oh, I made only a 30% ROI. I ran terribly because I should have an 80% ROI. That's not
Yeah.
how it works. It doesn't work at all like that.
Yeah. Well, that made me think like, when I got third place in the Gladiator, right after the money bubble broke and the min payout was like $500,
Uh,
I jammed ace jack for 12 blinds, and the big blind somehow folds pocket tens. Like he showed the guy next to him, and I was like, I mean, and maybe I win the flip, but like I could just min cash there. But also, so it's like
Well,
that's
then you don't hit the two. I mean, yeah.
then I
you
don't
hit a
hit 210K for
yeah.
that.
right.
But also, with 3 left in the tournament, if my king 8 suited holds against queen 9, then I'm in second. Then maybe I win the
Exactly.
500K for first. So
And the thing is most people view tournament variance entirely wrong as well. So I like to. So a lot of people, when they're thinking about like all-ins, they think about the old school way, like the real old school way of like how well they're running, which is like Skalansky bucks, which is I got all in here. This is the amount I should have made because of this all in, right? And oh, my kings were cracked here. Whatever, I should have made all this extra money. When instead you need to think about hands more in terms of Galfon bucks, G bucks, which is in this spot, my hand versus the range is supposed to make this amount.
Right.
But that's only step one of it. Not only is your hand supposed to make this amount, it's also this percentage of the time in the spot that exists, my hand is this, their hand is that. Oh, this percentage of time I'm losing, if you finish in the top 1% of the tournament, you ran incredibly well. That is just the facts. You ran really well, right? Like, okay, so this summer, I had 17 bracelet event caches. I had
Congrats on that. That's a lot.
thanks, appreciate it. I had 6 deep runs, like actual deep runs, where I finished in the top 2% or 1%. I did not play more than 500 entries or whatever. So in terms of the number of binds I played, I overperformed both in terms of the types of deep runs I had and even the number of caches I have. The fields pay out 15%. I cashed way more than 15%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I got demolished, and that is how my summer is supposed to go. Like I lost. Well, okay, so I ran poorly in 10Ks and stuff. I ran poorly in 3Ks and higher. I probably lost like 100K or whatever overall at the tables. And based off the binds I played, which I played like 200K in binds, that's just how 60, 80 entries, whatever goes. That's just what.
Yeah. Welcome
happens.
to low volume variance. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is I can say I ran really poorly, and I did, but also it's just the game. It's just what happens when anytime, like, let's say you finish in the top 1% of turn, or like this 777 thing, that I took this brutal beat in for a lot of money, whatever. I ran incredibly well. I ran incredibly well until I didn't. And the thing is, I ran incredibly well by getting certain setups, or I had aces, they had kings, and I held, or, I had kings, they had aces, and I drilled it, or I flopped a set, they flopped a flush, I turned a full house, they stacked off.
Yep.
Or my day one table draw was one of the softest in the field versus one of the toughest. Or, oh, I got one of the toughest table draws in the field, but I just happened to cooler the right type of pro at the table. Or like, when people think about run good or run bad, they think, oh, I won a flip, or oh, I won a 75-25. Not, oh, I got this setup after setup after setup. I got this bluff through. This person was at the bottom of the range in this time. Oh, this person was bluffing here. And while my bluff catch makes, 3% of the pot, they were bluffing. So I got all of the pot.
Yeah,
Like,
you either get 100% or 0
exactly
in one one hand.
Right. You win a flip. You ran insanely well to win that flip, because your EV in that flip is going to be, plus 1 to 8% of the pot, and you just got 50% of the pot, or 50% more of the pot.
Right.
Awesome. Well, hey, let's take a step back here for a moment, Ryan. So moving on here, I've looked through your Hendon. I've followed your results for quite some time now. Your two big W's, your bracelet win and your 10K Poker Masters win, were not of the no limit hold'em variety. Can you tell me which do you prefer in terms of tournaments? Do you prefer no limit hold'em or PLO?
Okay, in terms of pure enjoyment, pot limit Omaha high-low, then PLO.
Okay.
Then no limit hold'em, then Big O, then limit Omaha high-low, and then a bunch of the other mixed games.
Okay, and now my follow-up question to that is, I mean, considering the conversation with variance we just had, which one? I mean, obviously you've had your best results in what seems like PLO live. Which one do you feel you're the best at?
Relatively speaking, I am by far the best at pot limit Omaha high-low.
You are okay, and that kind of
it's not even
reflects on
close.
your on your hand in there. So,
Well, actually, no, it doesn't. In PLO8, I haven't performed well live at all.
oh, you haven't? Okay.
No,
Oh,
not
wait,
in
you said
high-low.
PLO8.
Yeah, in high-low, I haven't performed well at all.
Okay, I gotcha.
Actually, in high-low, I might be down money live.
Okay. I haven't had
Yeah,
the opportunity to play too many PLO 8 live tournaments. I do love PLO 8 tournaments though. They are super
they're
fun.
so just so much fun. I do love PLO tournaments a lot too. PLO tournaments, like you've said, I've performed very well in them. Honestly, I've just ran well at PLO live final tables.
Let's
You know,
talk about your bracelet win.
I have like what maybe 7 or 8 live PLO FT, maybe 9, and I think I have
A
like
lot.
4 wins.
Yeah, okay, okay.
I've just
Um,
ran well at PLO FTs.
so I think it's your career high score live at least is
Yep.
190K. That was your bracelet win, right?
Yep.
It was
Yeah.
the 565. Didn't they call it like the PLosis, or is
Yeah,
that
the
a joke name that you
Colossus.
came up with?
It was kind of a joke name that I came up with, and then it just stuck.
Yeah, I mean it's fitting because it's a small bind 565, similar to the Colossus, but it's a PLO based tournament.
Yeah, and I just thought that it was kind of a fitting, silly name, and kind of just worked pretty well with it. And actually now I think they even named at least 1 or 2 sites and a couple places actually have Colossus tournaments now. Just
Okay,
named it.
really?
Yeah,
That's
which I
awesome.
thought
Yeah.
is pretty
That
funny.
that's pretty cool that you kinda got that to stick. I mean, you've had incredible results clearly at the World Series of Poker. You've won the 565 PLO bracelet. How many entries were in that?
I don't remember exactly, like
A lot.
18, 1900.
Okay.
When I won it, it was 2,500. See, there you go. I even forgot that.
It's a lot of people
At
to beat
So
through.
when I won it, it was the largest live PLO tournament. It was the largest no limit hold'em tournament of all time.
That's
Is
awesome.
is that your favorite moment in poker, or do you
Oh
have
yeah,
a
not close. There isn't
not
a number two. It's just that.
it's just that, okay, cool.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I guess technically number two is Poker Masters, but honestly, I cared more about the bracelet than I did about Poker
yeah,
Masters.
I
Yeah.
mean, you've been grinding so hard through the World Series to finally acquire
Yeah.
that bracelet, I can only imagine, right? So, I think that's super cool. Now, I guess my next follow-up question to, between No Limit Hold'em PLO and PLO 8 is, do you prefer online or live? In terms of just enjoyment again, not in terms of
Enjoyment
yes, in terms of
live,
enjoyment, live.
making money online.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that makes sense. That's exactly I mean, for me personally, I think it's I enjoy live more. I think I mean, I definitely make more. I don't have a ton of volume online. I have a decent volume, but
Mhm.
I play a couple days a week or whatever, but it's all low stakes stuff. Yeah, so for me personally, it's live. What about you, Wes?
Um, for me, I tend to do a lot of one of them, and then once I've done that, I would prefer the other one.
You kind of bounce back between two. I mean, you put in a lot of volume of both, I feel like.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say if I had to choose one, it would be live, but
Okay. Okay. Do you play cash games at all, Ryan?
I have a little bit, but not often. I'll probably be playing maybe a tiny bit more coming up.
Okay.
Since COVID, I've played cash live like maybe 7 times, 6 times. And what's
Okay.
yeah.
kind of funny is, so not counting one time where we did like a private mixed home game thing, whatever, at the win. The stakes I've played are either 1-2, 1-3, or 2-5 don't limit, or 25, 50, 100 streamed games.
Okay.
And there
So
was a
no in
1025 stream
between.
game that I built as well. I did a coaches night game at for Bally Poker Live, where we played 1025, and I played against Foxen, Chewy, Justin Saliba, Jesse Sylvia, Ian Matakis, and Landon Tice.
Okay.
So that was a tough
I
lineup.
heard it, but I remember that was what, maybe 6 months ago, or how long ago was that?
Yeah, something like that.
Something
I
like that.
think
I
it was like
remember that game, and
October or
then you kind of
something.
was like, yeah, the coaching
Yeah, I
versus
God
coaching
moded
thing.
it. Yeah, it was fun. And then
Um,
I
yeah, go
also
ahead.
on that stream, I played my largest cash game ever. We started at 25, 50, 50. And then since I had 2 really good deep stack cash game pros on my left, each time I doubled up, I tried to get everyone to raise the stakes so I could play a shallow or effective stack. So, and
Smart.
I like that.
they all wanted to play bigger because, I was there, and then there's a couple other guys who don't play cash for a living there. So anytime I was like, "Hey guys, you want to play higher stakes?" They're like, "Oh yeah, let's do that." I'm just thinking, "Yes, got
That's a
'em."
great exploit, I would call it, because it's like you're clearly, as a tournament player, you're more studied in the under 100 big blind range, whereas these deep stack cash game players are playing 200 plus. You know what I
Right.
mean?
So I sat with 5K. When I doubled to 10K, I got us playing 50, 100, 100. And then when I doubled to 20K, we were playing 50, 100, 200, 100. And we
Wow.
had stand up game going. So I essentially squash effective stack sizes down to like 80 bigs each time I could.
Did you feel comfortable in that setting?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's good. I
Very
mean,
comfortable.
you're I know a lot of those players are your peers, so I mean, you probably, you're used to playing with them in some capacity, even if it's not cash games.
Yeah, I mean, I'd played with most of the people in that game before were players of similar caliber. So for me, I'm only uncomfortable when I'm put into situations where I haven't studied the theory much at all. And I haven't studied 200 big blind deep cash. So I want to play 80 bigs with an Annie or less.
This is a great segue into the nitty-gritty that we wanted to get into. Our favorite section typically when we have guests on is the studying section.
Yep.
How do you get better? But before we get into that, how did you originally start studying? And how has that changed as the tools have changed as poker has evolved over the years?
So I started studying in a handful of different ways. So I mentioned 2+2 forums
Yep.
and talking to
Yep.
people and getting coached and doing that type of stuff. One of the ways that I actually also started to improve was actually through coaching others.
Yep.
Because the more you have to explain a concept to someone and the more questions they ask about it, and the more in depth you have to explain it to them, the better you have to be able to know it in order to articulate it well. So I like when I was beating $3 to $5 buying 180 man sink goes on Poker Stars and beating low stakes tournaments on there. I would take players on my wing. I'd buy their action. I'd back them. I'd do whatever, or I would just coach them either for free or for like $10 an hour. Then I'd do it for 20 an hour, then 50 an hour, and so on and so forth. And as I was also doing this stuff, I also became a coach at Card Runners. I was a coach at pokercoaching.com before they changed their name to what it used to be. And then I was an elite coach at Run It Once and a coach at Chip Leader Coaching. So not only did I talk to
You've
other
been
players,
through all of them, man.
get backed and be coached myself, I also coached others. And this mix of all four of these is how I've built my thought process and game over the years, both in terms of exploitative decision making and then also theory as well.
I
And
think
then
yeah, that's great.
oh, uh, sorry, and then, this little program called PO Solver,
Mhm.
started beta testing about 8 years ago? I think 8 years ago, right around there. My backers were actually some of the first users of it. Um, and when, PO Solver came out, it, also, by the way, the name is PO Solver. It is
Not
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 PIO.
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 PIO is definitely wrong. The reason
Okay.
why it is definitely wrong is PO Solver is actually, most people don't know this, but PO Solver is named after its creator, Piotr.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So when PO Solver first came out and then Munker Solver came out not long after it, my backers were some of the first people using it. Obviously, there were private solvers out before this that people were using, but when my backers started to use this and started to get good at using it, they started teaching me how to use it, how to understand it, how to learn, all that type of stuff from it. And while, when theory stuff started to become publicly available through these calculators, then I was able to add another way to study through looking at solver outputs and discussing with my backers and friends and yada yada. And then as these GTO study apps came out, one of which I built, Range Trainer Pro, where we had pre-flop, post-flop, all that stuff. Then another way to study came out, which is using training tools. So using a trainer and doing that type of stuff. So I study right now in a lot of different ways. I discuss with other people. I get coaching. Like I just got coached by Lucky Chewy, which was unbelievably cool. He just great, wonderful, absolutely loved it. I coach others. I write articles. I use trainers, and I do review sessions. So like I just recorded my session from Sunday, which I used to get coached by Chewy with. But I also used it to create content for Learn Pro Poker. And as I'm reviewing the session, I'm going into solvers and putting, seeing what the outputs was supposed to be. I'm doing node locking to see if I'm understanding the spot exploitatively. So
Okay.
I'm studying in a lot of different ways all at once. And I think in order to survive in this competitive industry, you need to do pretty much everything I'm doing. I don't think the coaching others, I don't think that's a requirement. I think the everything else is a requirement. If you are not doing this, you will not survive as a professional player.
Let me just counter that and get your thoughts on it for a minute. Take, for example, someone like Jesse Lonis or Jeremy Becker. What are your thoughts on someone like that who doesn't study? pretty much at all outside of just talking poker hands and their results? Do you think they're one-offs or just, what's a good word or lack of a good word there?
Anomalies.
An anomaly, yeah. Are they anomalies or do you
So
think what do you think of that?
I don't think you can really put Jesse Launis and Jeremy Becker in the same conversation as players. You
Okay,
know,
Jesse, I'm assuming you're gonna put Jesse far above.
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
So, and I'm not saying that. I mean, Becker is a good poker player. Like,
right.
Mhm.
in order to play poker professionally and to have the types of results he's had, even in low stakes stuff, you have to be a good poker player.
Well, and they kinda grind 2 completely different
Yeah,
scenes.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just, I'm not saying that he's. I just want to say I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying that there's a difference between being a very good poker player, which Becker is definitely a very good poker player, and an elite poker player, which I would definitely qualify Jesse as being. I mean, without a doubt, he's an elite poker player. Both of them are to some degree anomalies, but especially Jesse is.
Yeah.
Like if you
Mhm.
look at the top, and I mean, there was a thread where I think Andy Sparks or whatever, or someone like that, had asked, you know, are there any players who don't study at all? And Jesse, posted it in the thread saying that he never studies, doesn't look at charts, yada
Right.
yada.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, if the top 2,000 people are looking at charts and studying in this way, I want to be different." And the thing is in order to be competitive against people who not only study theory at an elite level, but almost all of the guys who play this, like all the Triton poker stuff, they're all like, it's not like none of them aren't incredibly elite at just understanding the game holistically.
Right.
Like they're all incredibly skilled exploitative players as well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
look at someone like Ike Haxton. Like yes, Ike is a GTO super mega wizard, just, might be the best poker mind in the industry for no limit hold'em or top 10 for sure. All of those guys are like that and they're really good at just understanding the
They have
game.
that natural
Yeah,
intuition
they
that
have
yeah.
both. Like, you
Yeah.
can't be an elite player these days really without both. So the fact that Jesse can compete with those guys without studying is unbelievably ridiculous. And back to what I was saying before, he can be profitable in those events, be beating them for like a 20% ROI, and have the results that he's had over the last couple of years.
Right.
So I would bet that he's profitable in those events that he's playing in, and also would bet that he's ran way above expectations because he doesn't. No one has 100% ROI in those events. They just don't. You
Mhm.
can't have that ROI. It's literally impossible to have that ROI in those events. So I think both are true, and I also think that I kind of view poker kind of like. I mean, right now Wes is wearing a Twins shirt, and I assume you used to play baseball. I'm sure both of you have played sports in the past, right?
I did. Yep.
Okay. So Wes, you probably played baseball before, whatever.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's say you have two different players. One player runs to first base and has absolute perfect form. The other player who has absolute terrible form slightly beats that player to first base, right?
Yep.
The player you want to work with the most in baseball is a player with perfect form, not the player who beats that person. Because a
Mhm.
player with perfect form, even if they're a little bit slower, all of their other aspects of their game are going to have good, solid fundamentals that you can work on and improve. And if the player who doesn't have perfect form isn't willing to work on their game and improve, they're going to hit a limit. And the
Mhm.
limit they hit is going to cap out pretty low, relatively speaking. If you look at the top, 2,000 baseball players in the world, so pretty much everyone who plays in the MLB, right?
Mhm.
The absolute best players in the world aren't only great baseball players, they also work harder than everyone else. And there's almost no exceptions. Name a single exception of the top 100 baseball players right now who doesn't work incredibly ridiculously hard on and off the field. I'm sure there isn't one, right?
Yeah, it's clear that to become the elite, you need to not only have that
Yeah, you need both.
extreme level of natural ability, but also put in all of the hard effort that requires to, aside of natural ability, the skill.
Right, exactly. And the issue with tournaments in particular is even to do well in mid stakes long term, you need to do both. You can't survive without both because your ROI needs to be so high for it to be a viable profession. Like, the fact that Becker is solidly profitable in mid stakes tournaments without studying is incredibly impressive. But again, he is also an anomaly for that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he could do way better. If he just studied like that player who, had that bad form and beat the other player to first place, if that player is willing to work hard on their game, the person you pick to coach is that guy. You want the person who is naturally just able to outperform the other person, but who is also willing to take coaching, to work hard on their game, to be in the
Yeah.
gym every day, to do all this other stuff. To me, and the reason why I'm passionate about this stuff and talking about it on this is because if you want to play poker full time, not only do you need to be willing to work hard because you need to do the stuff to learn the game, but you're also at an incredible disadvantage. Like, I play low to mid stakes. I play, occasionally some bigger stuff, but you have plenty of guys who are around my ability or maybe a little bit worse, who have years of experience, who study and work hard, and who are grinding the exact same stakes that you're trying to play yourself. So you're at a multiple year disadvantage of studying. You don't have the experience, you don't have the networking, and now you're trying to compete with us. Like, you need to be obsessed with it, not just obsessed with playing, you need to be obsessed with studying too. Like, you
Yeah.
need to love it so much more than anything else you can possibly imagine. And the thing
Well,
is
especially if
that
you want to commit that much time to it.
yeah, exactly. This is purely talking if you want to be competitive playing professionally. If you just want to have fun and play, yeah, you can do, you can be a near break even player or even be a profitable player in the events that you play in, play part time and just view it as profitable gaming. And if you do it like that, that's fine. Like, you can do that. I'm like, I have nothing against that. I think that's what most of the industry is built around. And most of the people that I coach, that's what most of them are as well. Like, when I'm coaching, I don't promise to help you be able to beat mid stakes. I don't promise to, to help you make money. I help you think about and understand the game better. That's all the only thing I promise is that
Mhm.
I try to help you have a better viewpoint on the game and to appreciate the game more from a theoretical competitive standpoint.
You,
And I think if most people have that type of approach and understanding and realistic expectations, they'll be just much happier.
you have a follow up for that, Wes?
I have a couple follow-ups and then a couple of questions I had coming in.
Yep.
So I guess my initial set of questions was gonna be for a few different player types, let's say there's a player who is newer to the game and wants to become, maybe a break-even low to
Yep.
mid stakes player, and then you have a player who is experienced and has learned some stuff, but wants to maybe get to the point where they're a winning player in like the MSPT,
Yep.
the 1K type of range.
Mhm.
And then the third player is someone who's maybe either a winning semi-pro or a low to mid stakes pro and wants to become, break into the high stakes and be
Right.
profitable there. Um, for those three different types of players, what would you recommend that they work on the most? I know there's going to be a ton of stuff they need to work on, but how would you recommend they get started?
So the low stakes player who has some experience, I've got a website for you. You
Hmm.
go to school, learn pro poker. You have a welcoming, low stakes focused, some mixed stakes players community where we teach you the fundamentals of the game. You get direct access to me, you get direct access to a ton of passionate players, and it's free. That person needs to start around something like that where they're surrounding themselves with others and getting good discussions and starting to learn the basic fundamentals. Run It Once has a wonderful beginner friendly course that Galfon just made. I'm blanking on the exact name of it, but he launched it within the last couple of months. It's like 50 or $100. You get a course like that, you join a site like ours, and you surround yourself with other serious players. Once you get the basic fundamentals down, most of the Learn Pro Poker content is aimed at someone who's done a little bit of studying, but not very much. So you know what the terms are. You know what a three bet is. You know what a continuation bet is. You know what a check raise is. All that stuff. You have like those basic game fundamentals, that terminology down. Then the course that I've built for Learn Pro Poker is supposed to bring a break-even low stakes player into becoming a winning mid stakes player in terms of how they understand and think about the game. It is a mixture of GTO content and application of theory. So first I'll have a video. Our longest theory video is like 13 minutes. So these theory videos are between 5 and 13 minutes. I'll teach you a theory concept, and then attached to that video will be how you apply that concept in real
That's great.
situations. And then on top of that, I teach you the exploits that go with it. Okay, so this is what GTO looks like. This is how we apply it. These are the exploits on top of this that I'm using to make even more money and to be even more profitable than what theory is in this spot. And these are why, step by step. So that player who can't beat low stakes, they need that basic fundamentals. That player who can, is break even, site winner in low stakes, site like Learn Pro Poker would work. Sites like, Run It Once. You want to do a training site first before you start really using GTO study tools. Because the GTO study tools, since they don't really hold your hand at all, I would suggest a player who wants to be a good low stakes winning player, not use those until they're at the point where they feel as though they need that extra study material. And then what I would strongly suggest is you just grind a lot of hours in trainers. Like I would recommend, let's say, for Learn Pro Poker, obviously we have a deal with Range Trainer Pro. We have pre-flop study apps and a pre-flop charts and a pre-flop trainer. Super easy to use. You can do 500 hands in like 20 minutes, no problem. I would recommend that any player that's trying to beat low stakes poker for a solid win rate, you need to get your pre-flop game down in tournaments. It needs to be good. Like if you study 100 hands, so if you do 100 hands in the trainer, you should be able to get 95 out of 100 correct
Okay.
at
Okay.
all stack depths, at all types of situations, at least for opens and verse opens. You need to be able to hit 95%. Because the thing is your pre-flop mistakes are amplified through post-flop. And if your pre-flop game just doesn't work, then how do you have a grasp of what post-flop is even supposed to look like? And also, how do you have a grasp of what your opponent's ranges are supposed to look
That's
like?
really well put. I like how you use the word amplified there because, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you can just find yourself all of a sudden an inflated pot with your head and your ass, not exactly sure where to go
Yeah,
forward from
exactly.
there.
Yeah.
It'd be like trying to play baseball without being able to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and the way I think I've mentioned this on the podcast, but I know I've said this before. It's like, even if you're someone who's a field player, let's say you sit down at the table with you have nobody, no reads on anyone, you have 40 big blinds, and you're in the low jack. So you can't exploit. You get dealt a hand. How do you know which hands you're going to
yeah,
raise and to
exactly.
what
How do you know?
size? Like you have to have like a starting point.
That's the
Right.
foundation, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Learn Pro Poker is about. It's about
And
teaching you
they can find
fundamental
that
foundation.
online at what's the website?
So Learn Pro Poker. So the total link is school.com/learnpropoker. This is a community that we're building that is 100% free.
Love
The
that.
Learn Pro
Check that out,
Poker
guys.
site itself is paid membership only.
hmm
So
Mhm.
if you just want some free content, some access, get your foot wet to meet other players, to get direct access to me, school.com/learnpropoker.
Okay, and then you have I believe we checked it out briefly. You have a monthly membership, you have an annual membership.
Yep.
But I believe with the annual membership, do you get a discount then?
Yeah, you get a significant discount. Right now we're $47 a month, but we're about to go up to $97 a month.
Is
And the
that
reason,
do you get
uh,
grandfathered in?
yep, you get grandfathered in. So if
Okay.
you want to join, you should join as soon as possible. And the reason why we're actually doubling our rate is because right now, under 47 a month, I don't guarantee like group coaching or anything like that. I used to do them pretty often, but just my schedule got
A lot of
pretty
time.
packed. Yep,
Mhm.
exactly. With the 97 a month, or if you're grandfathered another 47, we're doing weekly group coaching sessions.
All right,
On
guys.
top of that, under school, there's a bit of a gamification process. If you make a post and someone likes it, you get a point. If you're the top 10 of our monthly leaderboard, you get a free group coaching session with me. If you're number one in the monthly leaderboard, you get a free one-on-one with me.
That's a good
So
incentive to get in there and play some hands in there.
yep, exactly. It's not even hands. It's just like posting on a forum. That's it.
Oh,
It's just a
okay.
super
Just
simple
talking. Okay.
community posting on a forum. That's it. Talking with other players.
Okay.
You make a post, someone likes you, you get a point. Multiple people like you get multiple points. And on top of that, we have some free courses in there. I have a free general theory course and a free final table and ICM course. And then we have some paid content on there, all of our Learn Pro Poker stuff,
Okay.
which Learn Pro Poker right now has about 500 videos. About 700 hours of total content would be my guess. And in terms of coaching, I've personally coached, I've probably spent 2,000 hours just coaching people. I've probably spent more than 2,000 hours building this content. In terms of, I do some one-on-one coaching paid as well. Over my last 10 years, I've literally had 100% satisfaction rate.
Love that.
Nice.
And I think it's really important in terms of like, I as a coach, I could be telling you guys, oh, hey, poker is this amazing thing for tournaments. You can make all this money. You can do all these things, look at these win rates, yada, yada. But if I'm not honest and upfront about what the reality of the game and the industry is, I'm just misleading people. And I think what a lot of coaches do is they leave out a lot of the negatives about what this game involves. And they also leave out how difficult it is to improve, and how hard it is to really be competitive. So when I'm talking about like coaching and teaching others, I want to do it from a very open, honest, ethical standpoint and go above and beyond and make sure that when I'm saying, hey, you can learn with me, which you certainly can. And I'm a very good coach. I would argue I'm one of the better coaches in the industry, definitely the best value one on one coach. I don't think it's remotely close. That I can help you understand the game better. I can help you appreciate better. I can help you make better decisions. But whether you make or lose money in tournaments is mostly up to luck. So when you're doing things like studying and trying to improve, it's a fun hobby that you don't mind spending money on. And
Mhm.
whatever money you're going to put into the game, whatever bankroll you have, expect to lose it all. That is by far the best advice I can give to anyone watching this who wants to take the game part-time seriously. And for those who want to take it very seriously, if you aren't absolutely obsessed with not only playing but studying and improving, you will not make it.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very valid points all around, and I like what the thoughts you gave about an amateur or part time player because yeah, like there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to go through, and that money you have shouldn't be money that you need to spend on expenses and stuff like that. It should be specifically set aside for poker, and you should be willing to lose all of that in the
Yeah.
process of learning.
Um, what do you think? So, talking maybe a bit more about the serious type of player, what do you think are some common leaks for someone who is, maybe trying to be professional or in that low to mid stakes level? And you can talk about either leaks in their gameplay or, as you've kind of alluded to, like their understanding of variance and how much time they need to put in, that sort of thing.
Okay, so we'll start with some broad spectrum stuff. In terms of like the mistakes they make, obviously it's all this not studying enough, not working with others, not using good enough bankroll management, not game
Mhm.
selecting well. I mean, game selecting is
And,
just like so
follow up
important.
on the bankroll real quick. What would you say is a good amount of buy-ins for both like online and for live if you're a tournament player?
Okay, so if you're a tournament player who plays part time and for fun, it's the amount you're okay with losing. However, I would recommend for live, minimum, don't put in more than 4% of your bankroll into any one event. And
Mhm.
then for online, don't put in more than 1% of your bankroll into any one event, unless you don't mind reloading. If
Yep.
you don't mind reloading, then just whatever you're comfortable with losing. If you're trying to play part time and consistently and seriously make money, for live, you should never, ever, ever put more than 1% of your bankroll into a tournament. And for
Mhm.
online, you should always have more than 300 average buy-ins.
Okay.
So more than 0.3%, you should pretty much never do.
Yeah.
And this is true for what you satellite into as well. A satellite tournament, when you're playing a satellite into an event, whatever the event is, that is the buy-in for the tournament you are playing. You
Yeah.
Okay.
can't
And
treat
so
it as like a one-off. Like there are exceptions to that. Let's say, your bankroll is like 100K, you want to play in the main event, playing a couple $500 buy-in satellites to it or whatever is fine. But grinding satellites to the main, grinding tons of 200s and 500 satellites to the main, you are not ruled for it, not even close. You are
mhm.
incredibly underruled to do that. Couple one-off shot takes is fine. In terms of consistently grinding, though, you need proper bankroll management or you will go broke. It's just
Mhm.
math. This isn't me saying like, about being capable or not. This is just how the law of large numbers works. When you're playing events where you have less than 30% ROI, which almost everyone does in the vast majority of stuff they play, if you don't have more than 100 buy-ins, you just will go broke eventually.
Mhm.
You will have a more than 100 buy-in downswing. It's just how it works.
Yeah, and I like what you said about satellites too. And if I'm understanding what you said correctly, it's like don't treat the satellite like that's the buy-in level.
Yeah.
Like a satellite, it's not a good way to just consistently get into higher buy-ins.
Yeah, it's
Just
terrible.
treat a satellite the satellite is just like
Another
a
tournament.
type of
Yeah,
tournament
exactly.
of its own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it's the same thing of, I've said to people like if there's a $260 satellite to an 1100 MSPT, like I don't really play that because it's the same thing as if you just do a $260 buy-in and you cash for $1,100.
Right,
Like
exactly.
if you make a profit of whatever $840 in a tournament or a cash game, you're not suddenly bankrolled to play an
Yeah,
$1,100 buy-in.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if it's a one-off shot take, in which case you're just gambling, that's fine. It's okay to gamble in poker. You know, the industry is built off that.
Mhm.
But when you're playing it as that, you need to understand that you're just gambling, and that's fine. It's
Mhm.
all about the expectations that you go in with playing. So I do a lot of coaching, and I've coached players from who have, you know, more normal life roles to have incredibly high net worth where what they play literally doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And whether you don't have that much money or you have infinite money effectively, you should be able to treat whatever game you're playing as being the most important thing you're doing at that time. And as though every decision you make is everything, it is the only thing that matters.
Mhm.
Or if you're going into a tournament with the understanding that, hey, this is a one off shot take and whatever, and you're going to play it as well and as seriously as you can, that's fine. But you also need to understand that you're just gambling. So it's all about the perspective you have about going into an event. You know, going into like, you know, when I play, you know, when I play a 10K or whatever, I understand that most of the time, you know, I'm or literally any tournament ever, it doesn't matter the buy-in. I understand that I'm just going to bust that tournament most of the time. So
Mhm.
I've already budgeted, or my backers have, or whatever, depending on how you want to approach it, losing that money. I don't go, oh, hey, I'm going to cash this whatever percent. It's okay, this money is gone. Okay, so how do I feel about that? Oh, I don't really care. Sweet, I can do it. But even then, I'm still going into it, taking it as seriously as I can. But I take it as seriously as like I'll stall on a $30 online buy-in where, you know, the min cash is $40
Yeah.
because I'm a professional and this is what I do to make money. And
Yeah.
if you're going into a tournament where, okay, I'm going to play this tournament and have fun, play a tournament and have fun. That's great. That's wonderful. But if your goal is to like be consistently profitable and professional, you need to go about it with that type of mindset. And I
Yeah.
actually, to go back to the first question is, I think that's the issue most players have, most grinders have, is they can't treat an $11 buy-in with the same type of professionalism that they treat an $1,100 buy-in.
Big league.
You need to be
Mhm.
able to do that.
Yep.
They're essentially the same. Whether you're playing $11 buy-in or $1,100 buy-in, your goal as a professional is to make the best decisions you can.
Through
If you're not
whatever
doing
tournament,
that,
if through
yeah,
every hand you
exactly.
play, it doesn't matter what
Exactly.
tournament it
Doesn't
is.
matter what it is. It's
Yeah,
a hand of poker. If you're trying to
100%.
be a professional, you need to be a professional. You know, go about it in
Something
the right
great to
type of way.
reiterate, and I think a lot of our, especially our newer listeners, need to hear that because I mean, even for someone like myself who has a ton of experience over all the years, I I feel that way now. I react that way now, no matter what tournament I'm in. I mean, don't get me wrong. Occasionally, I might be a little tired and punt, but
Right, exactly. Yeah.
but with that being said, I do remember clearly, like, for example, if I'm playing an $1,100 MSPT and I'm in there grinding with all of my heart and just playing as hard as I
Right,
can,
exactly.
then I go home and play an $11 online and I'm just like clicking. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's a leak. So
Yeah. So other leaks that a lot of grinders have is so studying bankroll management, yada yada yada. Of course, that stuff I've covered a lot, but that stuff's incredibly important. Game selection stuff as well, volume stuff as well. In terms of their actual gameplay, it's a lot of different things. But I would say globally speaking, they don't think dynamically enough about situations. So when I'm thinking about a hand, I start from a point of who is my opponent? That is the first question I ask myself
okay,
always. So not only who are they in terms of their play style, but also their ability. So whether I'm playing against you, either of you guys, or if I'm playing against Ike Caxton, or I'm playing against an extremely fun recreational player who's VPIPing 80%, the first thing I do is who is this player and how should I be approaching them? What is their knowledge and ability in the game? And then based around that, then what is their play style? Generally, the better the player is, the less I care about their play style because their play styles tend to merge to just being good loose aggressive. GTO poker is good loose aggressive. That's just how poker plays.
Mhm.
For cash games, good GTO poker is tight aggressive pre-flop, loose aggressive post-flop. That's
okay,
just how GTO plays. It's just how the game works at a fundamental level. So the closer the player gets towards the elite, the more I just try to play as close to theory as possible that I can based off the situation of the tournament. The worse the player is, and in my mind, I would say I have 5 degrees of recreational players and 5 degrees of pro players, maybe more like 7 or 8, I would say. So if I'm playing against a player, let's say these numbers go range between 0 to 7 for pros and 0 to -5 for recreational players. If I'm up against a -5 player, I have a certain type of idea as to how their ranges react to bet sizes. Generally speaking, the worse a player is, the more inelastic their ranges are. Inelastic being if you bet, let's say you bet pot or you bet a quarter pot, how their range changes based off that bet size.
Okay.
Generally speaking, the worse a player is, the worse they are at understanding what a bet means and why it means that. So versus the players who have these inelastic ranges, that means I bet large for value, bet small as bluffs.
Yep.
The closer that player gets to a level 0, the better understanding they have about what a bet size is, what it means, and their play might start to shift a little bit. Then the better a player becomes as they're a professional, then they start thinking about the game entirely differently. So when I'm playing against a recreational player or against weaker level professionals, I'm thinking about what my hand wants to do against their range because my opponent isn't thinking about ranges or range interactions or anything like that. So I don't care what my range looks like. I just care about what my hand wants to do.
Yeah.
The
So for you're
better
saying for value, you bet big for when,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
And then how I size that value is going to shift a bit based off of how poorly they play and then also what their style is. For someone who's really, really hyper loose aggressive, I actually just might check to them a decent amount and let them blast off.
Yep. Right.
For someone who's very tight passive or weak passive or loose passive, I'm going to pick various bet sizings based off of how likely I think they're to fold to bets or so on and so forth.
Naturally. Yeah.
And then versus better players, the better the player is, the more I'm thinking about how our ranges interact and where my hand falls at in my range in terms of bluffing category, value betting, bluff catching. And then I start thinking in those types of terms instead. So when most okay pros, they'll think about the game in a certain way and adjust a little bit, but they don't adjust enough. They'll go, okay, I'm supposed to do this, this, and this for these reasons. This person, maybe they're a little bit loose, so I'm going to adjust a tiny bit. When there's a recent Galfond video I saw that I think explains this concept pretty well and very succinctly, which is let's say there is a situation on the river and you have a pure bluff catcher. Your hand beats all bluffs and loses to all value bets. So the exact,
Your bluff.
Yep.
middling, it's a middling capped linear range versus hyperpolar, right?
Yep.
You just have a bluff catcher, you never beat value, so on and so forth. Versus a player who under bluffs, most people, what they do is they call their best bluff catchers, right? They call their best hands that block their strong hands and unblock their bluffs, right? What you're actually supposed to do in the vast majority of situations is if your opponent significantly under bluffs, you fold all bluff catches.
That makes
If
sense.
your
Right.
opponent over bluffs, you don't
You-
call more of your, bluff catches that unblock or block or so on and so forth. You call
Call
all of your bluff catchers.
Yep.
So you call your entire range.
And
So
it's simplifying it too. So I like that. Yeah.
So even concepts like that are pretty simple, most okay pros or even some decent pros just don't utilize or understand these concepts at their base level. They've studied in a way that it's a lot of like parrot studying. And this is why, working with coaches and talking to other players and watching training videos and doing all these other things matters so much because these training tools don't teach you how to think about these concepts globally. And the thing is poker GTO is so insanely ridiculously complex that unless you have an eidetic memory, a perfectly visual memory, you aren't going to know all spots. So you need to be really good at when you pull up a range and you look at a spot, you don't just go, oh, I'm supposed to do this X% of the time with this hand, yada, yada. You're supposed to go, okay, this type of hand is this type of category of strength for these reasons. This type of situation is this type of situation for these reasons. Since I have this type of category of hand in this spot, it performs really well as a bet or as a check or as a check raise or as a so on and so forth. Then you take that and go, okay, my opponent is supposed to check raise me 20% of the time. They're check raising me 5%. So even though I have a hand that is a bet call, since they're under check raising me, so on and so forth. This is why poker is so insanely complex because not only is theory just unbelievably complex, but how you're supposed to utilize that theory is even more complex than that because you have so many different factors. And this doesn't even count for ICM.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a great point. Yeah, and
or
I mean,
anything
like, yeah,
else.
there's so many
Like,
variables.
and this is just playing the game. And then on top of that, you need to study a lot. You need to have proper bankroll management. You need to have proper tilt control. You need to do, and like, as I'm listing off all these things and as I'm talking about it, obviously I have a lot of experience coaching this stuff, I have a lot of experience studying this stuff. I have all this type of stuff. And like my ROI in these things are high, but not high enough where I haven't been getting crushed the last couple of years live. This is what the game and industry is. And if you want to truly be consistently or very profitable in it, this is why you need to be obsessed.
Well,
Mhm.
I really appreciate you getting really into depth into that and setting a line for people to look at to understand what it requires to actually to be successful in something like playing poker professionally. It's I mean, everything you've gone over has been extremely in depth, and you talk about how you adapt from the type of players from someone who's an amateur all the way up, and then you have to just constantly think and adapt for every situation constantly. And I think that's what a lot of people, where a lot of people get lazy.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like all good poker players, so Becker, Lannis, Helmuth, whatever, all of these like really good field players, they would all be better players if they just studied theory because they're already elite at the hard part of the game, which is being able to think dynamically and adjust to your opponents. You build an incredibly strong fundamental understanding of what ranges look like, why certain pros are building ranges in this way. You get to, really play around with it even more. You get even better at it. And the thing is that, poker in general really is it's a game of ego in, pretty much every way possible. And if you let your ego get in the way of you improving and becoming better, or you using proper bankroll management, or you caring about the hands you play, or whatever, the industry is going to destroy you unless you get lucky. And the thing is that tournament poker is truly a game of survivorship bias, especially for live. If you look at the top 100 players on GPI over the last year, the top 100 players in terms of cashes over the last year on GPI. Any of the players in the top 300 could have been in the top 100. Pretty much all
Mhm.
of them could have been.
Yep. Yep.
There are players in 1500th who could have been in the top 20 last year. Very easily. There are players last year who lost $3 million, whose EV was probably plus $2 million. There are players last year who lost 200K who should have made like 300K.
Mhm.
That's just what the game and industry
Yeah,
is.
there could be
And
someone who's top 10 or 20 GPI right now who's, like,
down
losing
money.
money in the last
Yeah,
year too.
exactly. You could be, I would say, if you're like 30th or higher on the Hendon Mob money list for last year, you almost certainly made money. If you're in the top 200, there's no guarantee that all those players made money. And that's
Mhm.
the other part of the industry too that I think a lot of like OK pros and under don't really understand, and that almost all recreational players don't understand. Like cashes aren't profits. So you guys brought up before I have $3 million on my Hendon. That is $800,000 in lifetime profit live.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's a
For
question most
buying,
people wouldn't be able to answer.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
for
I know.
buy-ins, like I said,
Ah,
for buy-ins 0 to 6,500, so just buy-ins under 7K, so the non-high stake stuff, I'm running 100% ROI at plus 1.3 million. For 0 to 1,700, I'm running 150% ROI.
nice.
For online, I have about 5 million in lifetime earnings. I've played about 50,000 scheduled tournaments. For my lifetime ROI, it's probably about 20-ish percent and plus about 600K. So right now I'm about plus 1.5 million lifetime playing tournaments for a living, over 8 million in cashes. So running about so here is about what 6.4 million plus 1.6.
Yeah, so
I'm running about
25%
yeah,
ROI.
30, yeah, 25-30% ROI lifetime. And if I never played buy-ins uh over over 7K live, and I never played buy-ins over 500 online, I would be up another probably $1 million, give or take.
Okay.
Mhm.
And in those events, I definitely have a profitable ROI. It's just losing. So live, I've played for buy-ins over 7K. I've played about 90 entries on a 15,000 average buy-in. So 90 entries, you're down 30 buy-ins. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tournament poker.
Yeah.
I won a 10K and I'm still down in them. It's
Well,
just
I
how
mean,
it
yeah.
goes. I have a
19
tiny
buy-ins isn't
10K,
that many
18
buy-ins when
buy-ins.
you're playing
Yeah,
tournaments.
exactly. And then
Just
for
isn't.
online, my largest online score, my largest lifetime score is second place in online 1K. I'm probably break even in 1Ks online.
Okay.
In buy-ins above 1K online, I'm definitely down money. It's not close either. In buy-ins between 200 and 1K, I'm probably up a little bit, but not much. So it's just like the thing is that like I could, going by, bringing up my stats and stuff before, I could be up $1.5 million more dollars than what I am right now, and it wouldn't say a single thing about me as a player. It would say
Right.
literally nothing about me as a player. And that goes back to the point of what to most players really screw up on in terms of like they screw up thinking in terms of how well they play and what their ROI means and how it, extrapolates to other things. The sample sizes you need to know what a win rate is pretty massive. On top of that, when you're like studying and playing and improving and you're doing well, this is actually so like a lot of the good ideas I have about poker aren't mine. Literally everything that I've been talking to you guys about, everything I've learned as a player, I take from other people who I really like and respect and I go, "Oh my god, this idea is incredible. I love this."
Well, you probably
So,
consume that, and then you also, maybe manipulate it to not manipulate it, but you change it also to with all the other things that you've learned to kind of build it into your own thing as
right,
well.
exactly, and try to explain it to other people so they can understand it and really grasp it.
Yeah.
So Patrick Leonard, one of the best online high stakes tournament players of all time.
Pads poker, yeah.
Yep. He had posted something about how when he has a losing Sunday, he like I don't remember the exact number of hands that he runs or whatever. But let's say he runs 20 sims after a losing Sunday. When he has a winning Sunday, he runs 40 sims,
Okay. Nice. So he
which
works harder when he wins. It's typically,
it's
it's not often
people
that
do
that's the
it
way it
the
goes.
opposite. And the
Yeah.
thing is to me what this says is like, and going back to like, poker as a sport, if you're trying to be a professional poker player, you need to view it as though you're being a professional athlete. Studying and working on your game, whether it's all the different methods that I mentioned, you need to be doing all of them, but on top of that, you need to be doing it daily. Like if you're a professional athlete, you're in the gym every single day essentially.
Mhm.
It's a great point. It's a great point.
Patrick Mahomes, there was that quarterback
The documentary on
Netflix. Yep.
Netflix.
It was
Yeah.
really cool. The Patrick Mahomes one was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. It shows why he is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He outworks everyone. He on when he's like going to like he goes to his to training or whatever 5 or 6 days a week and they work out every day at training. On top of that, he has a personal training coach that he works with 3 to 4 days a week outside of that practice. And that's how obsessed you need to be with improving to be able to compete as a poker player. And I'm not even saying this to be elite. If you just want to be consistently profitable, this is the type of stuff you have to kind of do unless you are, I mean, I'm not stupid or anything like that. I'm a fairly intelligent person, so on and so forth. If you feel as though you have like 30 IQ points on me, then must be nice. Congratulations, especially if you have an eidetic memory. Then yeah, you don't need to work that hard. But if you don't have that, then and you actually are serious about wanting to be a good competitive player, then you have to be serious about working hard. It's a requirement.
Well, that's why
Basically.
Wes works so hard is because he really is. He's kind of
Lacking in the brain
yeah,
cell
he's
department.
pretty good. Yeah, his brain is yeah, it's peanut sized. So
Um, one thing I want to do is
says the guy who did math wrong at the beginning of the episode.
that was
Continue.
one thing I wanted to do is run a quick hand past you
Yep.
just to sort of see, and this is actually a hand that we talked about a few episodes ago, but just to
Yep.
see like all of the different factors that are going through your head as you're playing a hand here.
That sounds good. And then after that, we'll probably start to wrap things up.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good.
So the situation is we're early on day 2 of the monster stack this year.
Yep.
Big blind is so blinds are 2K, 4K, 4K ante.
One sec, let me notepad this down.
Yep.
2K.
This is why we need video content.
Yep.
This is why we're gonna start doing video content in the
Yeah.
future, just to make it easier for listeners.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Um, so yeah, so the situation is, there's about 25%, maybe a little bit less than 25% of the field left, 15% cash.
Yep, and 2x min cash.
Yep. So we are in the big blind. We started with about 155K.
Yep,
And so we have 39 bigs about. Under the gun plus one opens to 8K. He's a good player. I don't know if he's like a full time, but he's definitely like
decent
doing
player. Yep.
yeah, decent player. It folds around us the big
What stack
blind.
size did they all open off of? I
Oh,
assume you're
he
90.
has a little over 300K. I think he has the entire table covered. So
Yep.
definitely some
Okay.
incentive to put pressure on. And yeah, so we defend the big blind with Jack four of hearts.
Okay. Yep.
Fl-
Standard defend. I certainly don't mind it at all. If this was like I don't know, 18% of the field left, I would definitely be folding. 20% seems kind of close. This is pretty close to like the bottom of what I would be in terms of field left. Probably the bottom
Mhm.
of what I would be defending. Definitely sub 18, it has to be a fold. I think around 20 is probably where it's whatever, and at 25 plus, I would definitely defend it.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah, that's a good point about, with 18% of the
How
field
your
left.
range changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So, back to earlier when I was talking about ICM. So most people misunderstand ICM. Most professionals misunderstand ICM as well. And I would say that this is probably one of the biggest leads that most low to mid stakes professionals have in terms of like their global understanding of the game is they go, oh, ICM matters when we're kind of close to the money, when we're, 30% left, 25% left, or when we're nearing the FT or on the FT or whatever. ICM actually matters from literal hand one of the tournament. Um, do either of you know why?
well, so I thought it was once one person busts out. That was the, okay.
Matters from
Um,
hand one.
yeah.
Do either of you guys know why? Just out of
From that
curiosity.
Well,
part, I wouldn't. Yeah, no.
yeah, I guess the way I would look at it is because, you know, even from hand one, not all of the money goes to first place. So
Nailed it.
yep.
Exactly. So, the way that ICM models work, and this is something that Kenny Hallard actually showed. I mean, Derek Walters also, when he posts his main event stuff, shows this. But Kenny Hallard, Space CFCB on Twitter, he was showing like the EV gained when you late register a tournament, where it comes from, all that type of stuff. Anyways, in his models, you can actually see the difference in the early stages versus someone doubling and what their stack is worth. You
Mhm.
can very clearly see exactly what it's worth when you double. And this is, if you look at pretty much all ICM models, when you double up, you don't double up in terms of full
Your
equity.
dollar value.
Your
Yeah.
dollar value does not double.
Mhm.
Your dollar value, and this is at hand one of the tournament. Well, let's say it's $1,000 that goes to the prize pool. You have 1,000 in chips. You double to 2,000 in chips. Almost everyone would instinctually say that their stack is now worth $2,000. Their stack is not worth $2,000. Their stack is worth between $1,990 and $1,960, depending on payout structures.
Mhm.
Generally, it's going, or maybe even 1950 or 1940. So essentially, when you take an exact coin flip hand one, you lose like stone exact equity flip, no favorite either side, just straight 50-50. You lose between 0.5% and 3% on that all in.
And that's both players who are all
That's
in.
both players just immediately lose that.
Mhm.
And ICM gets worse the closer you get to the money bubble for everyone, essentially, outside of the big stacks, in which case, it's and I'm using ICM the same as risk premium. They're pretty much interchangeable concepts. Your risk premium is based on a lot of different factors. And most people it's just based off of how close to the money are you, but it's also based off of how many people are paid in the field, what percentage of the field is left, how much min cash is, also how many players are in the field. Your I see most people actually misunderstand this concept as well. Is ICM matters more the larger the field size when you're nearing the bubble. It's not the opposite. And the reason why it matters more is because when you're in these massive fields where a large portion of the field gets paid the same amount, most of your equity is tied into caching and it's not really tied into ladders. But when you're
Mhm.
closer to the FT, you have a lot of equity just tied into ladders and making these better pay jumps and doing these other things. And when you double in a smaller field, the likelihood you win the tournament also essentially nearly doubles, and you get to capture more of the final table payouts. So doubling is way more valuable. You go from
Then
30
say at the
bigs to
beginning of the tournament, like you
yeah.
mentioned.
And let's say you're in the monster stack. So this field pays, I ran pretty deep in it, so it pays a lot of people, like 800 people. You go from
It
30
was like
bigs on the bubble.
1,300 maybe.
Yeah, exactly. You go from 30 bigs on the bubble to 60 bigs on the bubble. You're going to get a couple pay jumps extra more likely. And yes, you do have like more FGS and that you're gonna deep run more and so on and so forth. But that doesn't make up for the fact that most of your equity is just tied in caching.
Yep.
So the way in which people think about ICM is just lots of holes in it. And honestly, I'm probably not that great at it. Like I know it pretty well, and the guys who are elite know it way better than I do.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry, you defend Jack four of hearts, 22K in the middle.
No, we
I
appreciate that insight on the ICM though. I mean,
Yeah, well, and especially in this sort of tournament, now that they made the min cash 2x, it's like
yeah, it matters a
that
lot.
even more incentivizes you to survive to that point.
Yep, exactly. All
Um,
right, so 22K in the middle. What's the flop?
Flop is 7 of hearts, 5 of clubs, deuce of hearts. So we got
Okay.
jack high flush draw.
Yep.
We check. I didn't consider leading.
You didn't think about it at all?
I didn't, no. And you can tell me if you would think about leading. I tend to think
Yeah.
about leading when there's like even if it was like 7-5-3.
when there's more straights available.
Yeah.
Yeah, then there's all those combos of straights that are available.
Okay, so you check.
We check, and he bets 18K into 22, so he's already going
That's a big size, yeah.
very large.
You call.
We call. Yeah, what's your thought? If he goes smaller, are you ever raising here? How does that sort of
Okay, so just to reiterate the hand for people who are listening, since we had that large tangent. So it's 2K, 4K, 2K, 4K, 4K. 25% left, 15% cash. We're in the big blind with 155K, so we have about 40 bigs. Under the gun one, who's a decent player, raises to 8,000. They have 300K in chip leader on the table. We defend Jack four of hearts, so pot size is 22K. Flop is 7 of hearts, 5 of clubs, 2 of hearts. Our opponent, we check, and our opponent goes 18K. Okay, so we can actually lead here a decent amount. The reason being is, when you describe this opponent as a decent player, to me, you're not describing them as being like a good professional, right? Because if they were a good pro, you'd probably know that. Even if they were like a European pro, you'd be like, oh, this guy's maybe, a good Euro or something like that. So to
Yeah,
me, your descriptor
he may
describes
be a
him as
pro. I don't know much about his game specifically. But yeah, I know like he's friends with someone I know who is a very good pro. So
okay. So to me, this means that this player is likely decent, right? But
mhm.
probably not really good.
That's what it seems like.
So that's most likely like going to be the case. Just, logically speaking,
Yes,
there
yeah.
aren't that many incredibly good players. So just mathematically, if they're decent, if you think they're decent, they're more likely to be decent than to be incredibly good. And the
Yes.
reason why these types of descriptors really matter a lot when discussing hands, because the way in which a decent player thinks about it and a good player thinks about it is going to be entirely different for the most part. The way they approach the ranges is going to be different. The way they try to exploit you is probably going to be different. The way in which they view your lead is going to be different. So from a theory standpoint, I don't think we really have many leads here. I would assume since they're opening a little bit too early that the range might be a little bit too strong. And even though they are opening probably a little bit looser, we probably just don't get quite enough leads. That being said, I'm going to double check because, nothing wrong with double checking, and it's always nice to have a better framework
Mhm.
in terms of making sure you understand the spot theory. So I would assume in theory you don't really have any leads. However, on 765 we definitely do. On 754 we definitely do. On
Yeah.
654 we definitely do. On 876 we definitely do. On 865 we definitely do. All those types of spots, right?
Mhm.
And to me, yeah, we peer check this. And to me, this type of board texture versus the vast majority of opponents plays the same as that. And the reason why is our opponent probably on this board texture is going to make a decent number of mistakes. Some of those mistakes, though, are going to be, and this is to me like one of the more important aspects of it. Most of those mistakes are going to be the fact that when we lead, they overfold. Like we lead 8K, they fold ace queen with the queen of hearts.
Mhm.
or king queen of diamonds that has backdoor flush draw, or they just fold ace king, or they call queen 10 of clubs instead of raising it. They
Yeah.
call jack 9 of hearts instead of raising it for equity value. They call jack 10 of clubs instead of raising it.
Yeah.
They allow you to get to the turn with hands that aren't supposed to get to the turn, and they allow you to have much easier decisions than what you're supposed to have as well. And then when they raise, since their raising range is so strong, they're going to under capture equity from you because you're going to correctly overfold. So
Mhm.
by leading small, you actually force them to make a lot more mistakes that are easy mistakes to make. When you check, it's going to be pretty easy for them to check back occasionally as
Yep.
a decent player, right? They're going to know that this board texture hits your range pretty well. So they're probably going to check back okay on this board texture. The main mistakes that they're probably going to make is they're probably not going to use large sizes often enough or use large enough sizes. This 18K bet kind of tells to me that they're probably decent to good. And that the solve that we use on Range Trainer Pro, they're supposed to split their range between 25% pot and pot. They're never supposed to use a size in between, essentially.
Mhm.
So they're supposed to mix between small bets and large bets, or even very large bets. This bet's kind of an in between. Maybe this size is something that one of our competitors use. Well, I don't own RTP anymore, but a certain specific site that has G in their name. This might their solves have a lot of issues in them, especially in their tournament data. Their cash game and single solves are pretty good, but their tournament solves are bad. And this size says to me actually that they're probably a good player. But the issue is when you check and they make this type of bet size, a good player, it's going to be much harder for you to get them to make large mistakes, right?
Mhm.
When you call, they're actually going to play really well versus a call here. They're either going to like turn good equity and keep betting, or run some bluffs and push you off equity, right? They're going to have these really strong value hands that be really easy value bets too. When you turn a flush, it's going to be hard for you to get really get paid. There's like a lot of issues in calling here. Obviously, you're still supposed to call most of the time and so on and so forth. But versus a decent player, I actually might consider raising here,
Mhm.
because so here, if we look at the spot in theory, they go pot. You have a hand like Jack 4 of hearts. It pure calls it, but at Queen 4 hearts, it raises it about a third of the time. At King 4 hearts, it raises it about 2/3 of the time. At Ace 4 hearts, Ace 6 of hearts, Ace 8 of hearts, it's pure raising it. And the
Okay.
reason why it's pure raising these hands is because they have better equity against your opponent. You have an ace high flush draw, they can't have a better flush draw than you. Then you also block some of their best continuing hands, aces, even ace 7, stuff like that, whatever. So solver wants you to have a better flush draw, so you just have extra equity when you get called. But the thing is when you raise any of these types of hands, your opponent is supposed to continue with certain parts of their range that's probably just going to overfold. Like, great example of this, I'm actually just looking at the solve right now. They're supposed to continue almost pure with ace jack with the jack of hearts,
Mhm.
ace queen with the queen of hearts, ace king with the king of hearts. They're supposed to three bet jam pocket jacks on you, pocket queens, pocket kings, pocket tens, pocket nines, pocket eights. They're just supposed to rip them. They're not doing this. It's not happening. It's not happening in this ICM spot. But on top of this, the slight, opposite side of this is when you check when they bet this large, the range just might be too strong. They might be under bluffing with this bet size, which is going to be pretty common. So that being said, like, I actually would still probably just raise this, because if they're decent enough to know that their large bet size looks really strong, when you raise them, especially nearing the money, you're just telling them you have a set two pair or some straight and flush combo draw.
Mhm.
So they essentially have like all of their over pairs are awkward, and every other hand that they have that isn't like nut flush draw or whatever is just like an auto fold in their mind.
Dribbles, yeah.
Yep.
So I'm okay with calling, but I can make really strong arguments for raising. And I think that this check is probably a small mistake versus most player types, honestly.
Okay. I do think he's the type that, like, if we lead, he's not gonna fold the ace queen with a heart type of thing.
But he's probably going to pure fold ace queen of diamonds or whatever, which just
I don't
isn't.
know. The one thing I agree, like the jack 10 of clubs or something, I agree. I would I would not expect that to raise as much.
Yeah,
That
and they're
sort of
probably just
thing.
gonna fold it. And those types of hands are really important raises versus leads in these types of spots.
Mhm. Um, okay, yeah, so we did end up,
Calling?
check calling.
Yeah.
Um, Pot would be 58K now.
Yep.
Turn is the jack of spades.
Okay.
Um,
That's a pretty easy card for us. You
yep.
know, obviously we're not leading any turn cards outside of what turn cards would we be leading?
5 or a 7, I'd assume.
What else?
Some like some cards that bring in a straight.
And
Um, if we make a flush.
certain flushes, yes. That's it.
Okay.
So there's certain flushes we get to lead on, sevens we get to lead on a lot, and then you know, fives we get to lead on a lot. Threes, fours, sixes, and eights are also cards that we get to lead on pretty often.
Mhm.
And for those of you who are listening to this, the easiest way to figure out whether or not you should lead or not largely comes down to if you were your opponent, how annoyed would you be by that card? It's the easiest way to think
That's a
about it.
great way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, if I'm aces and I see bet large, my opponent calls and the turns a seven, I'd go, yeah.
Yeah. You're annoyed.
The turns eight of hearts, I just go, fuck.
Yeah.
So we know then as on the turn eight of hearts, we get to lead almost our entire range on that card. And that's
Yeah.
the easiest way to figure it out is just, oh, and or you can just go, how much do you love this card? Oh
It's a
my
great
God,
way
this
to
is a great
simplify
card.
it.
Oh, sweet. Okay, you get a lot of leads. And I don't mean, you know, how do you love this card with your hand? I'm just saying most of the hands that you have that get here, they bet and you go, oh my God, this is a great card for me. Start leading.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Okay.
turn jack of spades, we check.
He bets 40K.
Yeah. We're calling, obviously. I don't think there's a discussion about it. You just,
Yeah.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
turn top pair with your flush
Yeah.
draw. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else are you
either-
doing?
Yeah.
No discussion. This is just, we get to call.
So check call pot is 138, and we
Yep.
have something like 90.
58, 56. Yeah, you have 90, whatever back. Yeah, 99 back.
River is the queen of diamonds.
So say the full board for the listeners.
7 of
Okay.
hearts, 5 of clubs, deuce of hearts, jack of spades, queen of diamonds.
Okay.
And then flop went check 18K call. Pot size on turns 58K. Went check 40K call. Rivers queen of
So
diamonds.
2 big sizings flop on turn.
Yep.
We check.
We check. He jams.
We go fuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so which means what do we do here?
Yep.
Anyone?
I fold.
So here's what I did end up folding. Afterwards though, I was like, I kind of immediately regret it because I'm like, what if he's still value betting 8s through 10s here? You know?
Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about that.
I mean, that seems kind of
Yeah.
wide to try and get your whole stack in for.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, so
I guess
this isn't that relevant,
Yeah.
but I did talk to him later, and he said he probably would have.
Right. In which case, then, so to me, that's not a decent player. That is a very good player who understands, you know, how ranges interact and how they work and all that stuff. But you didn't have that information.
right.
Yeah.
Based off the information we have right now, I mean, this is just very clear fold. It's not close. I think if you call it, it's a very significant mistake, with one exception.
Excuse me.
Since we're playing live,
And that is.
can you pick up a live tell?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Really, that's what it comes down to. Like, so
yeah, and
there are a lot of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So actually, I will say, I didn't really have a live tell. Maybe a small one where he didn't think too long before jamming, and so
Interesting. That's
So-
that.
so maybe in the moment that did make me rule out the 8s through 10s because I feel like
Yeah,
so it was either him
I
like
think that's an important one. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like he saw this card and he knew he was definitely going to triple off as a bluff, or he still had a clear value
Right.
jam. And obviously at this point, in the moment, I figured my jack was a pure bluff catcher.
Yeah, it is 100%.
Yeah, and so I did end up folding. And yeah, I mean, we're kind of close to the money here too. Like it's
So the fact that
anyways.
it's 25% left and 15% cash, the fact that it's a kind of a close decision and you're left with 25 bigs, I would fold here without a fairly good live tell. Like I would
Mhm,
need a pretty good live tell because okay, so let's say you think he's probably bluffing enough for whatever reason, it's just in theory. You just go, oh, this guy's pretty good. He's probably bluffing enough in theory, but my hand's a pure bluff catcher.
mhm,
The fact that he upsized flop and upsized turn, you need to be real confident about that because upsize, 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 which I mean, I guess river technically isn't, but anytime someone upsizes two streets, the likelihood they're bluffing significantly drops. It just like significantly it drops. Even if they're like a fairly good, they need to be a really good player for it to just be a properly balanced and built range. Who so on and so forth.
yeah,
This is why like if they're a decent player versus a great player, someone that is a really good player, i.e., capable of having eights or nines or tens here for value, or stuff like that, or they're just way too loose aggressive or whatever. You
mhm,
know, without that information, to me, this river is a fold unless I pick on a very specific live tell. There are a handful of different live tells that are near 100% reliable. So I would start with those. And then I would also try to mix in a lot of the ones that aren't reliable as well. The main live tell that I like to use, this one's pretty well known. It's called the pulse tell. This is also going back to our previous conversation about mistakes. Low to mid stakes professionals really make. And actually, I would argue that a lot of high stakes pros really make as well. They just don't look enough at the information they have available to them live. They just don't. Like when my opponent bets, okay, here, actually, give you guys an idea. So when I'm playing like higher stakes stuff live, or if I'm like deep in a day two and playing for a lot of money, when I'm really, really, really locked in and really putting my A plus effort, I take notes at the table. So like my day one main event notes is here's one of them. This is just on one player, and this wasn't everything that I picked up. This was just like the most important stuff that I saw. Seat one, fun, very very passive, slow plays flop turn, gave some movement while strong when asked if he'd show. Ace five hand just over min raise river for value. Check back ace six on ace eight six blind versus blind. Then call 25% on turn on three spades. Bet 33% pot on river. 4, 7 into 9 on 8, 6, 5, 11, 23 on turn king of hearts, and 1700 call raise on. This is just on one player.
Right.
And that was only about half the note on that one single player, main event day one. And the thing is the amount of live information you have access to, like that was like probably 20% of the information I had on that guy, just because I was
yep,
watching him in every hand and I was watching everyone else. And when I'm watching people make bets, I'm looking for how they react when someone bets first them, how they grab their chips, how they move, how they look, how they act. I'm looking for things like what's the speed of their pulse when they're betting strong, when they're bluffing. I'm looking at how that pulse speeds up or slows down after X amount of time. I'm looking at all of this type of information because when I have a somewhat close decision versus someone that I consider to be decent, this might sway me towards making a bluff catch because, well, sure, theoretically, this hand is kind of whatever as a call. If I know it's kind of close as a call, but I think he's more likely to be light here because he's a chip leader abusing a near bubble. He's capable of being light aggressive, being very loose aggressive. And I have a bit of a live tell. Sweet. I get to call this off.
mhm,
Or
interesting.
I've made tons of calls live where I'm like, I'm never calling this spot literally ever. 2 minutes later, I go, oh, he's bluffing 100% of the time. Call.
Yeah,
Okay.
That honestly happens a decent amount to me because I know what the main live tells look like, and that's what I'm looking for. And I see it, and I go, "Sweet! Oh hey, I'm losing this hand too. Oh hey, I get to win. Nice." And the thing is when you're not taking in that information, you're just not making the best decisions you can because you're ignoring an aspect of the game that not only exists but really matters. It matters a lot, especially the less live experience your opponent has, the more live tells matter
mhm,
and matters to a decent degree too. So obviously here without much information, I think this is a clear full. I don't think it's that close unless I get a really good live tell.
Okay.
The main live tell I'd look for since he's so close to, I'd be looking at his pulse. I'd be looking at the speed at which he bet, and like you use that to narrow out eights, nines, and tens. That's great. You use live information to narrow out parts of his range that you would beat, which would make this an easier fold. If you didn't use that information and you thought, oh, he could maybe have eights, nines, or tens here, you might have called. But
Yeah.
you had this information, you used it and used it to make a better decision. I would take it a step further and go, is his pulse still strong after 3 minutes?
Mhm.
Is when I reached for my chips in a certain way, did he adjust or move? When he was betting earlier in a spot that I thought he was bluffing, what were his eyes doing? What was his brow doing? How did he grab his chips? I might even, I don't really talk that often during hands while I'm playing. I might just start talking out loud myself and see what he does.
Okay.
Because generally you can't actually ask him, hey, are you bluffing here? Or hey, what types of bluffs do you have? But
Yeah.
if I go, what are you even capable of having here? And just saying it to myself out
See
loud,
how comfortable he gets, how
sometimes they
uncomfortable he
just
gets.
do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Or
that.
I'll ask, if, since I don't talk very often, I'll just be like, hey, will you show me if I fold?
I told Wes, it's funny you said eyes because I told Wes about a pretty valid eye tell I have on someone.
They're really
Um,
good ones. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like that. It was very solid and it's very reliable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
So the issue with a lot of live tells, and again, this is something people mess up, is your goal is to figure out, again, heuristics for that specific person. So some people have an ITEL where if they, look back or forth, whatever rapidly, they just have value super often. Some people, when they do that, they're bluffing all the time. So a lot of people take that and go, oh, this isn't a reliable tell. Well, you just have to figure it out for that person.
mhm.
When, at the end of the day, and this is kind of why I love poker so much, and I think a pretty good thing to end this on. Poker at the end of the day is about playing versus your opponent. That's all it comes down to. Studying theory, understanding the fundamental aspects of the game, learning ICM, doing all these other things isn't about not doing that. It's actually about getting better at doing that. It's about using the information you have available, including a better theory understanding of the game, and the reason why it matters a lot, and this is pretty much what every coach says, but again, this is just why theory matters so, so, so much for literally everyone listening to this right now. If you don't know what a mistake is, how do you know if your opponent's making mistakes?
Yeah. How do you?
That's a great point.
Yeah. How do you know if your opponent is,
Under bluffing,
over
over bluffing.
bluffing if you don't know what an appropriate amount of bluffing is?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or what a proper size is, or why it's a proper size. If you don't understand the game at a fundamental level, we're all, to be honest, we're all just guessing. But you're
Mhm.
guessing with less information than what we're guessing with.
Yeah.
And that's going to put you at an extreme disadvantage. So while poker, yes, at the end of the day is looking at someone and just going, hey, he's bluffing, I call. It's also about everything else. And you need to be able to do both if you want to be competitive at a high level for any stakes. This is true if you're playing $1 binds online, $100 binds live. I'd be the best player in that game. Understand theory the best of
All
those
right.
fields.
Mhm.
Ryan, it's very clear how much value your learn pro poker could bring to someone. I mean, just the way you've talked throughout these last couple hours we've been chatting, it's been very helpful and very insightful for me to just listen and have this conversation with you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and go over all that stuff with us. It was a pleasure getting to see you also at the World Series of Poker this year. Congrats on
Likewise,
the 17 cashes.
thank you.
Um, let's go ahead and let's just one last time give a plug to your sites. I believe it was school.com/learnpropoker for the free
Yep.
stuff. That's
Yep.
the community.
Yep. And then learnpropoker.com is our paid training site. If you want to hit me up for coaching, I'm pretty booked, but maybe I can squeeze some time.
Good answer.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
likely though, but
I'm
we'll
pretty
see.
booked, but you can get it straight through his website at
Yeah, exactly.
learnpropoker.com. So,
Exactly. Well,
um,
for one-on-ones, I mean, for one-on-ones. For
for
the
one on
training
one,
content, all please come and enjoy. The other thing as well, for all of my coaching stuff, I guarantee it. If you buy a month and you dislike it, and you want a refund, just cancel it. Message me directly if you're having issues with support or whatever. We'll give you the full refund. We take a loss on every refund.
awesome. That's very that's a great business practice, obviously, and it helps with referrals and all that good stuff as well, which is super important. I think that we will go ahead here and wrap it up. Check out you guys Ryan's training site, learnpropoker.com. Make sure to join his community. As he said, especially for you newer type players, get in there. talk with other players and kind of grow within the community. That's going to help you in the long run. This this is something I'm going to go back and listen to a bunch.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff. I mean, I feel like we could have talked for, another 6 hours.
Probably or
whatever.
longer, right? And I hope
Yeah.
that in the future we have this opportunity again,
Yeah,
Ryan.
definitely. I would love to be on
Again, for those who've listened, we plug this on every podcast, but make sure to check out our Discord channel. If you go to my Twitter at Deuce Nukem, you will find the pinned tweet has a link
What's
to
this? It's the Suited Kings Twitter now.
It's the Suited Kings. That's right. I changed it.
Oh, yeah, you
Okay,
changed
so
it.
this week, that's something I should probably mention that this week we finally transitioned. My personal Twitter is now at Suited Kings Pod. That's SUITED KINGS POD. At Suited Kings Pod is now the official Suited Kings Twitter. You can find on that pinned tweet we have access to our Discord completely free as well. So I know Ryan's in there, a bunch of other people are in there. We have fun talking poker. So make sure to get in there. Anything else I'm missing here, Wes?
Yeah, if you're an online poker player, use that link and sign up for Clubs Poker.
Yeah, we're gonna have a meetup game next week. Get into the meetup game. If we get 16 players, Wes is gonna get one across the face. So.
Nice. I hope to see it.
I don't love hurting Wes, but everybody finds it funny, so I just got to do it.
Yeah.
Something that I saw about Clubs Poker is I saw that they have spin and goes. I saw that for their cash games, they have antes, they have straddles, they have bomb pots.
They do have all that. They have
Mixed
also
games, too.
at least 8 different types of mixed games on
Which is
there.
pretty wonderful.
Just
I mean,
don't
I'll
see
be
that
checking
often.
it
Yeah,
out.
we don't. A lot of players don't have access to those kind of games now. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have some mixed game tournaments too. And I mean, they're brand new as of July 1st, so this stuff is only going to grow and get better.
yeah, our
Awesome.
goal is to grow with them. So make sure to join up using our link. You can find it on our Twitter. You can find it in our Discord. You can find it in the show notes. Also within our show notes, we will plug Ryan's links to his websites, to his Twitter, all the good stuff. So if you're interested in following up with Ryan, whether it be coaching, whether it be joining his site, or just any general inquiries, you can check out the description, and I will put all that information in there. With that, we will sign off, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. Wes?
Are we going to do the...
No, we're not
don't
going
make me do it.
to. I'm not going to make you. Have a great day, guys, and we will talk to you next time.